In this demo, we'll introduce the repository pattern. Let's start by adding a new interface to the services folder. We'll name it iCityInfo repository. This is the contract that our repository implementation will have to adhere to. We're going to start by adding methods to get data, as those are the first we will switch out in the upcoming demos. We will keep on building from that. It's important to only include the methods we'll actually use in a repository contract. So we'll need a method to get the cities. Something along the lines of getCities, for example. What do we want to return here? Well, there's two options I often see. Either return an IEnumerable of city. For that, we do need to import the cityinfo.api.entities namespace. So that's one thing you could do. The other thing that sometimes happens is returning an iQueryable of city. And this is a decision on which quite a bit of discussion exists. If we return an iQueryable, the consumer of the repository can keep on building on that iQueryable. For example, he can add an order by clause, he can add a where clause, etc. before the query is executed. So that can be seen as convenient. But in a way that also means you're leaking persistence-related logic out of the repository, which seems to violate the purpose of the repository pattern. On the other hand, if you're building an API that allows a huge set of data shaping possibilities, all requiring different queries, writing tens to hundreds of methods in a repository becomes cumbersome, if not almost impossible. Anyway, both approaches exist. In fact, DB context itself is a repository pattern implementation, the kind that, according to some, leaks persistent-related logic and thus should be avoided. Typically, you will hear the proponent of the one approach say the other one is bad and the other way around, as is of course often the case with pattern implementations. We're not going to get into that discussion here. We've got a pretty straightforward API, so we will return an IEnumerable. And this is gonna work. But this is a synchronous method. If you've worked with C# for some time, you know we can also write async code. An async version of this method could look like this. It returns a task of IEnumerable of city, and method names are typically postfix with async. So should we or shouldn't we do this? Let's have a look.